Hey, Better Babes. I'm Jonathan Van Ness, and welcome to Getting Better. Today, I'm so excited for our guests because they are so major, and I'm always excited for our guests, but this one's like really, really, really major. Welcome, Matt Bernstein. Now, you may know Matt as Matt XIV online or from their podcast, A Bit Fruity Pod, which is so good. They're the first person on my story bar, and they are my most shared account. Like, I be sharing these posts so fast, like mom, friends, production team. I'm like obsessed. I'm like the president of the Matt XIV fan club. So if you're not following, you're seriously disturbed. Get it together. Their POV is so singular and also at the cutting edge. And the older I get, I wonder what these Gen Zers are thinking and happening. And so we just got to get it together. So without further ado, welcome, Matt. Hi, honey.
Thank you so much for having me. And I can't believe that you're the president of my fan club that I didn't know existed, because 6 years ago we met, and shortly after we met the first time, you invited me over to your apartment because I was like, I want to start like sharing more of my voice online, and I really don't know where to start. And you were already like this blossoming star. And I remember sitting in your living room in your apartment in New York, and you gave me such great advice. And so it's just, what a blessing.
Oh, I just have like been cheering along. I was in my intro, I didn't say it, but literally, there are posts that you make where I like will just stand up and start clapping. I'm like, have you seen this?
What?
Like to strangers, like you really do such an incredible job. You are so quick on like to respond to things that happen in the world online, which I love your turnaround time. I love the way that you engage with people, but let's just go back to the beginning.
Sure.
How did Matt XIV start? And did you ever expect yourself to become like this level of political force?
No. I mean, it started when I was in college, which is also when I met you.
I can't believe you're that literally like speaking of like, I always thought I was going to be like the youngest one. That's just wowzers, you know? But can I also just say like how chic that you have just, I know that we're not supposed to call people younger than us like smart or whatever, but you've just been so fucking smart this whole time since college, girl.
You know what? I personally would push back on that. And I mean, part of the theme of this episode, which I'm sure we'll get into, is like finding your voice. And I think that is just like a lifelong project. And I look at some of the stuff that I put up online, 6 years ago, much of which is archived now. And I'm like, we've learned a lot since then. We've grown a lot since then. We've archived a lot.
Yes.
But, thank you. That's very kind.
So it was 2019. Is that when you officially like launched Matt XIV?
Launched Matt XIV, as in like made an Instagram account. I mean, I've had, I am part of the first generation, I think, that really grew up on social media. I know we keep doing age. I will say, disclaimer, I'm also learning now that I'm 26 that I'm also no longer the youngest person in the room anymore. In this room I am, but in most rooms I'm not anymore. And yeah, I mean, it was really like in college, I was getting like really big into makeup, which
you do so well.
Well, thank you. But this was like part of the sort of like YouTube beauty guru boom era. And all I wanted to do was like buy as much makeup as I could, wear as much makeup as I could. This was the Bi Sister era, which will mean something to some people. But I was like coming into myself as a queer person, as like a 20-year-old. I was coming into like what it meant to not just be like a homosexual, which I had been out as since I was 15, but like a queer person who was very visually queer, who was unmistakably gay all the time. Online vitriol was getting really emboldened. And I just was like, well, I want to start like being myself more online and speaking out more. And then, some people started to read things slowly over time that I was putting out. There was never a moment that all of a sudden it was like, whoa, what are we doing here? Like it was a steady, I would say, turning up of the temperature of feeling like all of a sudden I had, some people reading what I had to say. But yeah, it's always been a process and a journey. And I know those are like mush nothing words, but I've really grown into it, and I've appreciated that I've created a space online where I think people recognize that I'm a human who is growing into it all the time.
Was there like a moment or a cause or like a person who like either reshared something or like where you were like, whoa, this is like really like we're growing out here?
I mean, I remember like pretty early on, like Demi Lovato shared some of my stuff and I was like, whoa, like I've been the biggest fan of them since I was a kid. But like, in truth, I try not to pay attention to that stuff too much. I mean, I try not to pay attention to like what I make once it's out in the world. I try to just let it be out in the world.
So you like a firm no comments policy? Like, are you never in your comments?
I am almost never in my comments. I am basically never in my DMs.
We talk about this a lot on the pod. I'm like I'm not in my DMs because I turned those bitches off.
I remember you used to be in your DMs.
Yes, I used to be in my DMs, but I turned those girls off because it just like was too much pressure. But I'm like a recovering in my comments addict, and I'm working every day to like get out of there. But it's like, it's so weird how like how hooky it is. Like how you just like those online little fights, like it gets me, but I'm working on like releasing those strings and like not getting caught up in there.
Well, and I don't know how much you want to go down this, but like I remember one time, I mean, for the first few years that I was doing this, I struggled with that like more than anything else. I was like, I need to know what everyone thinks about me on the internet all the time. I need to know how this is received by every single person who's receiving it. And I had someone who had been, working in a public facing job longer than I have, who was a friend, say to me, like, what you're doing when you, for example, search your own name on Twitter, which was something that I would do, it's like self-harm. You're trying to exert control over a situation you have no control over by doing something that you know will hurt yourself, but you're telling yourself that it makes you feel better. And that framing of it, I don't know if that's going to resonate with everyone, but it really resonated with me, and I have not done it since.
Would you have predicted your generation's rightward swing?
Yes. Yes. Not to like...
Tell me everything right this instant.
Not to
burst my bubble.
Sure.
And pat yourself on the back.
No, not to pat myself on the back.
No, please
because
do
like
it.
I have so many negative feelings about that specific thing. And it's something that I will not shut up about, because it's like, I do think this election for a lot of people really burst the bubble of this idea that people had that it was like...
Gonna get better.
And like Gen Z is like by some like...
all progressive.
By some like inherent fate, exactly, is gonna like save the world or whatever. Like I have, as someone who is like deeply, deeply online and has been for years, right? Like my screen time's like 10 hours a day.
Mine is too. That's why I was like, same.
No, I mean, it is shocking, but it's also my job, so whatever. But like I myself and so many people who spend that amount of time online, I think could have told you that something like this was going to happen some way. I remember, and this is the thing that I'm going to say to like not pat myself on the back, but I remember I was on vacation with a friend for a friend's birthday, and there were a bunch of people there and none of us really knew each other. And as an icebreaker one night at dinner, we were like, everyone go around and say a hot take. And this was like 3 years ago. And I remember my hot take was Gen Z is just as conservative as every other generation. And everyone was like,
no, boo.
Right, exactly. And I think that the first time that really dawned on me was, I mean, there have been a lot of moments, but I think generally speaking, watching young people be as susceptible to any other generation to misinformation through social media, and for Gen Z, it's through TikTok usually, was such like an eye-opening moment for me. Like, we all make fun of like boomers and like they get their like AI slop photos on Facebook and they like text it to their kids and they're like, can you believe this is real? And it's like the fakest shit you've ever seen. But like Gen Z is so happy to believe misinformation if it's tailored to them the right way.
Yeah, it just has to have the right hook. If it had the right first 3 seconds, they're going to believe it forever.
I think Gen Z is really susceptible to misinformation online when it's tailored to them the right way. And it is being tailored to them the right way. And the people manufacturing right-wing content for Gen Z, people like Charlie Kirk at Turning Point USA, they know how to churn out, channels like Jubilee that host these like debates where it's like gay person debates Nazi for some reason because there's a middle ground to be found there apparently. But it's like these people know how to rage bait. And I was looking at the questions beforehand, and I think rage bait might be something you want to talk about later. But they know how to make content, and I can't account for every reason that young people are swinging to the right, but my bread and butter is the internet. And I can tell you what's happening on the internet. And I think the fact that we're even talking about it, that more people than ever are talking about it, things like the manosphere, it's like, okay, we're starting somewhere.
how do you, or do we counter all of this rage bait? Do we do it? Because I love how you do it. So how do you think about dealing with this?
I mean, you cannot counter all of the rage bait because rage bait it's like the premise for the most viral right-wing content online, and there's just too much of it, to your point. I mean, you can't play whack-a-mole because the other thing that does is it is constantly, and this is one of the things that I really did not like about Kamala Harris's campaign, was that you center, instead of having your own belief system that you're advertising, you're constantly centering the other person's belief system, and you're defining yourself as in opposition to it, which is already just, it's working from defense. Do you know what I mean? Which I think is not compelling to people in general. But when there are stories, does that make sense?
Yes.
When there are stories that go viral enough that are, influencing policy, the way people are generally talking about LGBT people, what have you, then I try with what platform I do have to correct the narrative. And, a few examples of that, because they're often related to trans issues, because the only thing the right has on trans issues is rage bait and hyperbole, because there just isn't an issue in real life. So like the Iman Khalif, J.K. Rowling thing with the Olympics, where they just spread this myth that Iman Khalif was a man. And that was one where I was like, okay, this is bullshit. It's being spewed at the highest levels with the goal of taking trans people's rights away, right? And that was one where I was like, okay, I'm going to step in. I'm going to make a podcast episode about this. I'm going to post about this 16 times online. Like, I am going to yell and scream about how this is not true. It's just not true. And a lot of the people participating in that campaign, I won't say a lot of them walked it back, because in general, people online, and then especially right-wing influencers, don't love to admit when they're wrong about something, but they just stop posting because it becomes embarrassing for them. And that was the case, I think, with a lot of people with the Iman Khalif issue. Riley Gaines.
Making so much money on her speaking tours.
Making an unbelievable amount of money.
And she's made the unbelievable amount of money like by protesting her 5th place finish in the NCAA, which she tied with Leah Thomas for, beaten by like 4 other cisgender women.
But this is the thing, is she will never say, I tied with Leah Thomas. So she was a swimmer, and she tied with Leah Thomas, who was a trans woman swimmer, in an NCAA swim race. They tied for 5th behind 4 other cis women. She never says, I was robbed of my 5th place finish. She says, I was robbed of my dream. Because that is how you make a compelling story, and that is how you make compelling rage bait. And it's also a lie. Because whether or not Leah came in 6th, it wouldn't have mattered. Neither of you were in medaling positions. But the fact of the matter is, and Kat Black, who is this Black trans amazing YouTuber who's like a veteran on YouTube, she just came on my podcast and she basically said this to me. The truth is, none of the people who fabricate or, kind of exaggerate these stories about themselves so that they can successfully grift the right, at the heart of it, they're just not that interesting. Because if they were honest about who they are and what they've been through, they wouldn't be able to make $1 million off of it.
Yeah.
They need to exaggerate, which is fine. Like, we all know people who kind of just exaggerate stories to make themselves feel better about their boring lives, whatever. But this is all being done to take people's rights away. That's the end goal.
Yeah.
Not for them. Their end goal is to make money. But the end goal of the movement is to take people's rights away. And that's why I get so angry about the grifters.
It's also so frustrating, like how I saw this video of Riley Gaines on TikTok, like at University of Oklahoma or something. And she was coming out of this speech where she was like, just peddling all this anti-trans information of like, trans inclusion in sports. So like the nuance of it all, it's like, it's not only just competing in NCAA. It's like, this also affects like elementary age school kids, junior high school. And when I think about like what I learned, like not to always bring up my cheerleading career, but like I learned teamwork.
Please.
I learned social capital. I learned like how to audition for something. I learned how to deal with rejection. I learned how to like work as a team. I learned how to like show up for people. To this day, skills that I learned in cheerleading, like I still use them in terms of like dealing with other people. So it's not only like, what about trans women's ability to participate? What about their ability to like gain skills that will help them for the rest of their lives? Like, it's not only about getting on a podium, it's about all of the social capital and all the skills that you get to learn when you're in sports, and to like rob people of that just feels so fucked up. And I hate that people can't, but I also just don't know. I just got into a fight with one of my family members that I didn't think would like say some of like these similar things. And I just was like, fuck. Cause she like had like a couple conversations and now she's like, and I was like, so what's your line? And in her case, her line was like a inclusion at the Olympic level. And I was like, well, you know, at what point do they get cut off then? Like, it's like only in elite sports. I just don't know how we can like come to a consensus on anything now because it just feels so fucked up.
Yeah. And
Well, no, I got like another like thing in my head of J.K. Rowling being like, you know, you just want to like have minors have sex changes. And
well,
it's
and
like,
also it's just not happening. Regardless of what you or I are advocating for, it's just not happening. And then J.K. Rowling will go and be like, well, look, I found this one case of someone in some country of somewhere. And I'm like, okay, but, and it's, you know, that in and of itself is usually dubious, whatever they're bringing up. But it's like, this is not the issue that these people are making it out to be. Advocates for trans kids are not advocating for them to get sex changes, nor is that happening. And these people need the public to believe that it's happening because that's the only way for them to get the end result that they want, which is that for trans people to have no rights and for trans people to basically cease to exist in public life. Like that's the end goal. But they can't do that with the stories that are based in reality of what's really happening, which is like trans kids being like socially transitioned in schools with different names until they're old enough to make medical decisions. Like that's not compelling because if they were honest about the fact that like a lot of trans kids, it just starts with being called the name that you want to be called by a teacher in school. Like
maybe a haircut, maybe an outfit.
People wouldn't give a shit if you didn't whip them up into a frenzy. And so they're whipping them up into a frenzy.
When you're going through it, when you just like did a post, it's going viral, you have a new episode out, people are like talking about it, or you're just like, how do you decompress? How do you take care of yourself?
I leave my phone in the other room. First of all, I don't use social media when I am not what I consider like working or, you know, researching or what have you. Like, and I also try to, and I've always done this, like I try to keep my working hours the same as like my friends' working hours, my friends who have like normal jobs, like 9 to 5, 9 to 6 kind of thing. So in the evening, I try to not go on my phone. And yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, when I write something or when I record something and then I put it out into the world, I'm talking like I'm like a musical artist, like my baby album is yours now. But it's like when I have like a hot take and I, you know, or you know, they're usually not so hot, but they're like mulled over takes and I put them out into the world. I'm just kind of like, okay, like I comb over everything that I do. I try to make sure that everything that I say and write is reflective of how I feel at the time. And I just try to do my best. And then once it's out, it's out. And using your voice, whether, you know, to a large audience of people on the internet or to your friends or family at a table, right? It's a vulnerable thing to do on any level. And I think that as long as you know that what you're saying is like, again, true to your heart, then there's nothing to like regret. There may be some stress over how people will react, but yeah, personally, leave my phone in the other room, go like, I don't know, cook something, take a walk. I take a lot of walks. I go to the gym and I don't check social media when I'm at the gym. Like I'm just off of social media is what I'm saying. A lot of people ask sometimes, especially if I meet people in real life, and they're like, do you have like a personal Instagram or something that I could follow? And I'm like, I am not online when
I don't do that stuff.
When I'm not online. I don't want to post.
But let's say that someone is really never use their social for political stuff, or they just avoid these conversations with their friends or their family because they don't like to be uncomfortable and they don't want to advocate for anything. They're just like, I don't want to rock the boat. How would you give advice to someone who wants to, but like if their internal dialogue is like, oh my God, I can't do this. My palms are sweating. I'm fucking freaking out. How would your internal voice come into their head? Like, how would you coach them through it to use their voice?
Well, first of all, don't do something that's like going to make you literally vomit. And also don't do something that's going to like put you in danger.
Well, assuming that they're not going to be in danger.
Okay, sure. I like to start there because like, I mean.
Well, of course, yes.
For people, you know, often have that conflict, but I'm like,
Yes.
don't do something that's going to put you in danger.
Yeah.
Like, you know, don't do something that's going to get you thrown out of the house. Like there's no use.
I don't mean the 18 and unders who like have to keep a head on. I mean,
Sure.
yes.
I mean, I think part of what I just said, I'll repeat, which is that like if you're saying something that you know is true to your heart and if it's weighing on you, then you will not regret saying it out loud. And that is very much how I felt again about like talking about Palestine online. Like I was like, this is how I feel. I know people are going to be mad at me because this is one of those issues that among like people left of center, right? Like Democrats, broadly speaking, there's a division of opinion. Less and less so. The division is shrinking. But, I knew that it would upset me. And it was for weeks, months, like you said, beginning of 2024, end of 2023, beginning of 2024. It was like every time I went on the internet, there were like people who were mad at me, people who were posting about me, people who were like making Instagram reels about what I said about Israel. And like, that was upsetting. It was upsetting. I'm not going to pretend that there was this immediate turnaround where I got up the next day and I was like, the truth hath set me free and I'm in touch with my honest, whatever. Like, it was upsetting. I lost childhood friendships. I grew up in a Jewish social circle. I lost childhood friendships because of that. But now, not only do I not regret it, it was so unbelievably clarifying, like I said. And so I'm not Mel Robbins. I'm not here to like impart wisdom or like, advice. I'm 26, right? Like I don't want to tell anyone what to do or how to live. But I will say, broadly speaking, like I don't think you'll ever regret speaking up about something that you feel passionately about and that you know is right. And can it complicate things? Can it complicate relationships? Can it make a dinner uncomfortable? Yes. But I also, first of all, those things are temporary. Second of all, I don't look at this country. I think we have to be uncomfortable right now. Oh my God, I literally sound like I sound like AOC. I'm like, we have to get uncomfortable at the dinner table. But it's true. Like, I am no longer of the mindset. I don't know if I ever really was, but I'm really out of the mindset of like, let's put our differences aside to just have our brunch. Like that, it's not the time. It's really never been the time, but it's really not the time.
I was seeing this one guy or someone was saying like that they don't have apolitical friendships. And I was like, I don't think I've ever really been, once I find out that someone's like if I bring something up and then I find out like I don't really want to be their friends, but I do feel like one area where I personally feel like I can have more patience, or not more patience, it's like I feel like I can make a change is like to people who just like don't pay attention. That's one thing. Yeah. I think it's like the people who just like don't think any of these things affect them. I've talked about that on the pod for years. Like it's like the undecided people or the people who just like haven't gotten into the fight. I don't know if I have the energy to try to like unindoctrinate people.
Sure.
And also because like you have to have willingness if you want to grow anyway. But the one good thing I would say about discomfort, which I agree that we should be uncomfortable because like there is so much stuff where I'm like, it's really alarming. But my therapist says that we do grow through discomfort. So maybe we're going to grow together and maybe we'll figure some things out. Have you learned in this time, like anything that's particularly self-care-ish for you outside of like a walk or a gym? You like, does bitch like a bath? I mean, you like your nails aren't here today, but if you have followed Matt XIV, which I hope you have, normally, I mean, I tried to have nails once with I did a, not a particular cat from Cats, but just like a background dancer from Cats for 2019 Halloween costume. And I tried to get on like nails, like how you normally do them. And, the point for me when I knew that I had gone too far and I could never have them again, it was trying to get a fork. I tried to get a fork out of the drawer to eat some food before I went.
That was your moment?
I was like trying to like figure out like how to get this fork out of the drawer. I couldn't fucking eat. And I'm just one of those girls where like, once I need to eat, like I need to fucking eat. And I was ready to tear them, just raw dog them right off my nail beds. And I got them off the next day. I couldn't handle it.
That is so funny.
I don't
would
know
have
how
thought
you
it
do
was
it.
like,
I'm so proud of you.
I mean, I feel like things that are, yeah. So usually I have very long nails. I don't have them right this second because I've been like letting my nails grow a little bit. I promise it's like not a sign of the times. I'm like not becoming a real man. Like it's fine.
No, it's just because a lot of like gels in it. Because like I said, I have gels on. Like I'm normally a gel girl, but every once in a while you gotta let like your natural nail bed breathe so it can like re-strengthen. Because it does take a little bit out of there, like with the constant acrylic application
And with the removal.
Yes, it's like this great. Do you know about nail envy?
Nail envy? No.
Oh my God.
I get Gel X though. I don't
As an
get
older
acrylics.
queer, this makes me really happy to be able to tell like a younger queer a really important thing. There's this stuff called nail envy from the 90s.
Okay.
And it's really good to put on your nails when you're taking breaks from gels or acrylics because it'll help to like rebuild your natural nail. It's like a little protein, like clear gloss.
Sure,
it's called
sure.
like nail envy.
Yeah.
It's very a la 90s. It's very like Aussie scrunch and spray, but I really feel like it works.
Yeah, my mom uses like one of those.
Hey, I have a question.
Sure.
That's so out of left field.
Okay.
Did you guys watch like or care about It Takes Two or The Parent Trap? And if so, did you have a favorite? And also, like, yeah, just that.
Okay, I am not. First of all, at no point do I claim to speak for my generation, and especially not on like
for you
cultural
personally.
references.
Did you watch a lot of It Takes Two or The Parent Trap? And if so, did you like one more than the other? Like,
I have not seen It Takes Two. I have, of course, watched. Oh my god! Like gasps from like everyone in the room.
I know. Okay. So you haven't seen It Takes Two with Mary-Kate and Ashley?
I haven't.
It's a really
don't
iconic
yell
scene
at me.
where I don't know which twin it is, but she's like, I'm going to play you a selection from Chopin instead of Chopin, and it's just
Chopin,
so cute.
sure.
It's really cute.
But I
think it still
Trap.
holds up.
I've watched The Parent Trap.
Yeah, but I think basically It Takes Two is that. It's kind of like the I Dream of Jeannie to the Bewitched of that era, of that kind of movie. Do you know what I'm saying?
You're like...
Because yeah, you definitely
millennial references.
Well, but I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched is not a millennial reference. That's like a 1960s reference. So it's like a boomer reference, really, if you think about it. My mom got me into it. It's fine. It's not a big deal.
You know what though? Because this will sustain me as like feeling like the youngest person in the room for like at least the next 3 weeks.
But I still think that It Takes Two holds up. What about like Sister Act 1 or 2? Did you not do that either? No, right? Probably not. And then another thing I like to ask Gen Z people is what was like the first Olympics that you really identified with and like have memories of?
The first Olympics that I really identified with,
Beijing, Torino.
Sorry?
Beijing.
I think
Torino.
It was either Beijing or London, because it was the Fab Five.
Oh,
that
was London?
That was London. So
yeah, that was London.
But
We came away with the silver.
Gabby,
I mean, we weren't gonna get out of Beijing with a gold if we didn't have a fucking like army fucking helicopter. Like we were like at Team US. It was not your fault, Alicia Sacramone. If you're watching this, it was not your fault. Okay, don't let anyone tell you that it was because it wasn't. But yeah, Fab Five, we fucked them up. We fucked those other. That was the best vault rotation we've ever had. You had Gabby, you had not Simone yet. You had Gabby, Jordan Weber, and Allie Raisman.
Allie Raisman. What I am also a huge gymnastics fan, which I don't post about, but I'm a huge gymnastics fan. But was Gabby 2008 and 2012 or
12
was it
and 16?
12 and 16.
Yeah, 12 and 16.
Okay, so it was London was the first time I was
London was that Olympics was so good. You know what my husband says, because I watch a lot of that on YouTube. I'll just go watch like all these like old Olympics. Just I can't handle how much I love it. Apparently, the reason the gymnastics stadium and those playbacks like wasn't very full is their organizers like got all these tickets for like corporate people that then just like didn't show up because everyone left London. And I just can't believe that that stadium. I'm so offended that stadium wasn't fuller. And I'm still talking about it in 2025.
Also, I watch YouTube videos of like old gymnastics,
world championships, nationals, all of it. Yeah,
all
me
the time.
Too. That's what I do.
Time. And one of the most like sort of gut wrenching things that I think you can watch is the Russian women's team final from 2012. It's like, because I think they were like in first place going into it, or they were like really contending with the US for first place. And then like one by one, each of them started like fucking up in like huge ways and like falling on the floor and like flipping out of bounds. And you watch like all of them just start crumbling. It's not a high note to end this episode on, but
no, I that is a high note for me. I'm very like I've worked really hard on this because I realize that they're teenagers and everything.
Yeah.
So like I try to cheer everybody on from all over, and I think that's like so great. But in 2020, this girl, Angelina Melnikova,
yeah,
she posted this video of the five of them or the four of them getting up on the podium to Gangster's Paradise. What would happen if we never win? I guess we'll never know. And then like she made that on her Instagram in 2020. And after that, I was like, I don't fuck with you girls. Then in 2024, Suni did it.
That was Simone's year of like,
then I ran into Suni at Heidi Klum's Halloween party and I said, oh my God, girl, I'm like the biggest fan. I was like, when you made that video, was that like a low-key read against Angelina? And she was like, Angelina made a video with that same thing in 2020. And I was like, yeah, girl. And she was like,
did Suni use the same song?
Yes.
Oh, that's
And I
funny.
thought it was like her doing a read, but it was, she like didn't. And I could tell from the look on her face that like she was not trying to be controversial when she did it. And I was like, oh, I wish you were trying to be. Cause like I was really like, I just think growing up in the 80s, we really like in 90s, they really taught us like Die Hard. They really taught us to be afraid of Russians. But then Anastasia tried to make us love Russians, which totally worked on me. Like, yeah. I low-key do love them. I just don't love them when they beat us in gymnastics or figure skating. And I also don't love what they did in Ukraine. I just love the figure skating and gymnastics. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Let's be clear.
Let's be clear.
We have to be clear these days. Okay, so nails are still there. We're just taking a break.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about the glam before we get into like practical solutions on like how to continue with our lives. Glam's really pretty. Is there any like palettes or skincare that like we need to know about these days that you're just really loving?
I love talking about politics, but I really love talking about makeup.
Yeah, because everything's so pretty. I mean, your inner eye corner is just gorgeous. The shading on the outside is really pretty.
I am.
Is that all your last with some mascara or with a little mascara?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Youth.
Youth eyelashes. I don't know if there's a correlation there, but
wait, well, yeah, you'll find out.
Well, yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
About 15 years.
I have been loving for like over a year the Anastasia Beverly Hills Rose Metals eyeshadow palette. That's like the one that I always use. It's like so grungy. The colors are so sophisticated. Not grungy in like a high school way, but grungy in like a just like sophisticated, earthy, like just delicious color palette. I love those eyeshadows. I guess with the Anastasia stuff, I don't know. I guess RuPaul has his claws in me, but and then the Ilia Limitless Lash Mascara, such classic. Can't
I
get
use
enough.
their tinted sunscreen in the summer like a lot.
So good.
Yeah, it's really, really beautiful.
So good.
What else? Is there any like body care you're loving right now, or just anything that we really should be knowing about? Like, what are the kids talking about?
Honestly, I don't know. When it comes to body care, I have always just been like a
lotion girl, like a Cetaphil girl,
like a Dove soap.
Oh,
like a Dove soap, and then like a Cetaphil or a CeraVe or like a Eucerin.
I'm not mad at those.
No, I think like nothing actually makes me quite so happy than like leaving the drugstore with like a huge pump bottle of like body lotion.
Yes, I don't want to sound like bougie because I get that like it's bad, but people know from them. I don't want to like, but I made friends with the people at La Mer, and then they sent me this body cream, and now I'm really
Helen
worried.
knows the owner.
But this La Mer body cream, I think I would sell. Like if my cats could live with one kidney, no, I don't want them to give up their kidneys. I would sell my HIV positive kidney to someone if I could have like free La Mer for the rest of my life.
Sure.
The body cream is really slutty.
Sure.
Okay,
well, I use Eucerin, and
Eucerin's gorgeous. And why
I would
waste our
also
money?
sell my HIV negative kidney for Eucerin.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my God. Well,
Look at us.
I don't think your kidney's worth a lifetime supply of Eucerin.
Oh.
I'll give you like the $300.
Okay.
You know. Like
a 1 year supply.
Yeah, because like Eucerin, like, she's like affordable, which is great.
Sure.
Okay, calm down, Jonathan. I just didn't want you to sell your kidney. I got scared. I loved our like interstitial beauty segment. That has never happened before, but we had to do that together.
We did.
Feel more complete now.
Thank you.
But rounding third base, sliding into home. Who am I with a sports reference? Like, I don't know.
This podcast is brought to you by ESPN.
Dodgers. Whatever. It's like the team I know. So have you seen anything? Obviously, it's like, look, it's a little hellscape adjacent right now. We can't sugarcoat it. But have you seen any reasons for hope? Or in the Gen Zs, are you seeing any silver linings?
I wouldn't make it generation specific. I mean, but look at what just happened with like this mass mobilization protest across the country.
Yes, hands
right?
off protest.
Hands off protest, exactly. I mean, I have seen so much anger directed towards what's going on, and that brings me hope because, I'm sad that it had to reach this place for so many people. I feel like to be like shocked into action, anger, frustration, using their voice, what have you, but sometimes it does, and the way people have coalesced and are coalescing, I think. Is hopeful.
Yeah, I agree. Now,
and also, I will say this, like, and I talk a lot about history. I do a lot of like kind of historical allegory in my own work. And these periods don't last. They never do. And I don't say that as like a woo woo. Like again, I don't say that from like a Mel Robbins, like we got to pick ourselves up. Like I'm saying that from historical precedent. These periods don't last. And I talk a lot, and lately I was just like tweeting, like ranting about this, but I was like, you know, it's very easy, I think, if you've read a little bit of history, to know where to stand right now if you want to be on the right side of history. I think it's a very easy call to make. And I would just want to encourage people to stand on what will be the right side of history, like unequivocally. Yeah.
And if anyone's watching this, younger people, older people, anybody, any age, any bracket, if they've been like too afraid to do the research, do their own education, to use their voice, any encouragement, like to get off the sidelines and like get in the fight, as Elizabeth Warren would say?
I mean, I think in the same vein, like you will look back at this period of time in America and you'll remember what you were doing, because this is a painful period and this is a period of immense suffering, and we can all do something. And that does not mean like, you know, accruing a big social media following or like whatever. It could just mean like volunteering. It could mean like
Come on, mutual aid.
It could mean donating to someone's mutual aid. It could mean, you know, just like pushing back when your family members say bigoted and false shit about like trans sports at the table.
You can bookmark some of your posts. Show them to them.
I'm not promoting myself, but like,
well, I am.
Well, but you know what I mean? Like, not everything has to be a grand display, right? Those hands-off protests, those were one day, and that's a big thing, but it's usually not going to look like that. It's usually going to be small opportunities to address the people in your life who are contributing harm. And we all have the power.
Last question, and you've been so amazing. I love you so much. I'm so glad that you came and made time for us today.
So much.
What do you hope people walk away with after they engage with your content?
Well, it depends the person. I say a lot of times, you know, like I'm so grateful for all the people who follow me. But oftentimes when you follow a political creator online, it's because, at least in part, that you agree with them. And I try to make what I do really shareable so that it reaches people who are in like their families, because they feel comfortable sharing it with like their family or their cousin or like their friends or whoever, or their shitty boyfriend, right? Like, I'm trying to reach those people. I think that's my end goal. That's like the end recipient that I have in mind a lot of the time. And I want people, you know, if it's like a queer person who already agrees with a lot of what I'm saying, like I want them to feel like they're in community, that they're not alone, especially if they don't live in some city where they're surrounded by like-minded people all the time. I want them to realize that there's a big audience of people online who are there for them. And then if it's like one of these people who I'm talking about, these sort of like end recipients who don't know who I am, who don't care about who I am or what I have to say, but who are reading it anyway by some, you know, because they received it, I hope that they can feel challenged. And you know, we're talking about rage bait. I try not to employ rage bait. I try to reach people where they're at. You know, sometimes that gets criticized for not being like forceful enough or whatever, but it's like, I'm trying to reach people where they're at and like draw them in.
I love that you do it like that. I think it's so much more effective.
All we could do is try. Right?
Sidebar for anyone that's watching or listening and they're just like, God, I'm like obsessed with Mad XIV. I
Oh
want to
my
get more.
God.
What's your pod release schedule? Are you still bi-weekly or?
Yeah, I release an episode every other week. And I would love to do it more than that, but it's like, they're all so like research
You do
intensive.
so much groundwork on it and you can tell, and it's so good.
That is all I wanted to
And
hear.
it's anywhere where you get your podcasts.
Yep, and on YouTube if you like a video.
Yes. Okay. So and it's a little wait, let me make sure.
Yeah.
Tell me.
It's called A Bit Fruity, like the gay euphemism.
A Bit Fruity pod. We love it.
And yes, and I'm also doing a bunch of I'm in my JVN era. I'm doing a bunch of live shows this coming. Okay, let me see if I can remember. Toronto.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're gonna do so good there.
Brooklyn.
Yes.
LA, San Francisco, Portland, Chicago. There's two more. Shit, but they're all.
I'll send you my favorite travel bags, but you're going to have like a tour. You'll just be following Matt so you can find out where they're going to be, see all the things. I love you so much. And thank you for all your work. And thanks for coming on Getting Better. We love you so much.
I hope I was coherent. Thank you so much for having me.
We love you, honey.
I love you.